Hello there everyone, Lars here, with another writer's review, brought to you by Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And this was an adventure that I dropped the ball on back in February. I fully admit that and take full responsibility for that. You see, I was doing reviews for blocks of episodes while RWBY Volume 7 was underway, but when February hit, it was just a really strange month for me, with a brief period of burnout, too many projects on hand, and my full-time job. In the end, I decided that it was better to finish a rough draft for a novel than worry about pumping out a bunch of YouTube videos. So I dropped the ball, and this review is coming in long after the finale has aired, but you know, better late than never. So we'll let that serve as the preamble for this video. Let me just get right to my thoughts about RWBY Volume 7. In short, it was rushed. And at length, I was torn throughout the entire season between my love for moments that were truly amazing and incredible plot progression, in contrast to blatant pandering, weak character development, and speeding through a chapter in RWBY's narrative that definitely needed more time to stew and evolve. In a way, I feel like I did when I left the theater after watching The Force Awakens. I was overall happy with the experience, but very worried that the next installment could wreck everything because there were too many loose ends and not enough development for characters and their plots. And because I can see in hindsight just how many mistakes were made in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, I am very worried about what could happen in RWBY. For this review, I will explain first the things that I liked and disliked about Volume 7, and then I will say what I personally would have done to make the most of the season that we were given. And then I will give some thoughts about the future of the series from where we are right now standing. As I talk about what I like and dislike in Volume 7, I'll alternate between the negative and the positive. I think that will best capture my own thought process on the volume and the emotional roller coaster ride that it was for me. So first of all, one thing I said throughout my previous reviews, and it needs to be said here again, the pandering was dumb. Look, I get that Bumblebee is one of the most popular ships, and there have been some great moments for both Yang and Blake in the past. But with the exception of their conversation while hunting for Robin, every scene they shared lacked spirit, spunk, depth, or anything else that I've come to associate with these characters. Seriously, Yang is one of my favorite, if not my favorite character in the entire series, and I see her falling apart. And episodes were slowed down to make sure that the camera could focus on them being cute, I guess? I honestly believe that we are all being baited right here, and as any fish can tell you, all that waits for those who take the bait is a sharp, painful hook. I might be wrong, but their interactions in this season to me were so lackluster, and I can't even get behind it anymore. I'm just done with it. But one character who got a ton of depth and much needed development was James Ironwood. Oh my gosh, I loved his redemption and fall. This volume saw him become a complex character full of good faith and excellent ideas, fighting a losing war but still holding out to hope that he had everything that it took to confront his failures and succeed. And then we watch him duel Watts, and oh my gosh, that was one of the best fights that I have seen in this series for a long time, and I'll bring that up again later. But really, Ironwood got phenomenal development and amazing scenes all throughout the season, culminating in probably one of the greatest moral grade decisions that the fanbase has seen from this show. But then we have to talk about wasted potential. A lot of this I chalk up to the season being rushed. The Ace Operatives were a brilliant concept, and I liked the idea of Robin and her followers. And Watts has a potentially great backstory, but we only ever got snippets. And so by the time that we get to Clover's death, I felt like it didn't have the impact that it should have. And fighting the Ace Operatives was fun to watch, but it felt like it was missing something. And once again, that's something I'm going to elaborate on a little bit later when I talk about the things I would have tweaked. And also, at the end of the day, I just needed more Watts. It was lots of fun to see him do his thing. And so, really, I just wanted more of these characters, and I felt like we just didn't get enough of them, and it was wasted potential. Now, what I got really happy about was overall plot progression and world building. Atlas has been propped up as this incredible but two-faced city, and I was not disappointed. I would have liked to have seen more regarding the treatment of the Faunus, but the dynamic between Mantle and Atlas was great, and the way that we saw their societies portrayed and how they fit into the larger scheme of things was perfect. However, this all came at the expense of getting better character development for our main cast. I've already addressed Blake and Yang. Weiss is the closest to getting good development. Her reconnection with Winter, though I think did more for Winter's character than for Weiss by the end of the season, and Ruby herself was just kind of on autopilot throughout most of it. I have no idea what on earth is going on either with Ren and Nora, because all of their relationship problems were unheralded and unresolved. It was like, let's put in drama. Here's a drama bomb because, oh by golly, let's not have the one good relationship that we have in the show actually be happy and healthy. What the heck was that? And John just keeps getting put down. Like, it's not even funny anymore. His whole moment where he was helping the kids go across the road was pretty cute, and by golly, thirsty moms. But for crying out loud, it's getting old. And then, on the flip side of that coin, Oscar and Crow are finally getting better moments and small character arcs. And Winter was phenomenal, and Penny was great, and I really wanted to see just more of her because it was so much fun, and I'm really happy that we got that reveal in the very first episode of the season that she is back. So we got more time with her. I just wanted more because these side characters to our main cast are really beginning to shine, and I love seeing it. It's just sad that we don't see the entire cast coming together and shining together, just making it even better. And I will say this, I really loved what we got to see of the Schnee family. That was awesome. I loved it. And so this all now brings me to my last big gripe, and that is that things just went super fast in this volume. In retrospect, I would have split the volume into two separate seasons with their own arcs. Pacing was ultimately the biggest enemy of this season, because we were trying to jump from reunions to becoming huntsmen to conspiracies to the Schnee family and then to the final battle, and a lot of important character moments were then missing along the way. Remember how I said that the fights between Team RWBY and the Ace Operatives were missing something? Well, when RWBY tells them that they were the best, meaning that the Ace Operatives were the best until they had trained her and her sister and their friends, I kid you not, I shouted out, "No, you aren't! What did they actually teach you? When did you learn any of this? Where did this even come from?" A few very brief training montages and a grumpy look from Bumblebee is literally all that we got, and that is nowhere near enough to make the betrayal and the subsequent fight at the end deliver the gut punch that it was supposed to deliver. Once again, this is just wasted potential, and it came about because there was not enough time. I enjoyed watching that fight. It was really fun to watch, but it lacked the emotional depth that would have come with it had it been properly developed over more episodes. But on that same token, the fights are getting better. Watts versus Ironwood is the closest thing that I'll probably get to Mistborn becoming an anime. It was so cool, the way they were just flying about using their guns, and that it was a very smart, calculated battle. And while the fight between RWBY and the Aces were lacking in feels, as I said, it was fun to watch. And the Mexican standoff between Robin, Crow, Tyrion, and Clover was everything I didn't know I needed in RWBY. That was a visceral, brutal fight, and oh my gosh, I loved watching it. Now, I have to say that the ending of this season really has me worried, because while Salem is coming in with a large army of Grimm, I actually feel no fear for the main cast. None whatsoever. They beat the Ace Operatives with barely a scratch, they looked ripped and ready for war, Penny is now the Winter Maiden, Oscar has a semblance, and they have access to the Relic of Creation. I do not buy the danger. This is a serious narrative problem. I should be on the edge of my seat worrying about what's going to happen next. I am not. I'm just like, yeah, there's going to be an awesome big battle and things are going to go really crazy and someone's probably going to make a stupid move and they're going to lose the relic. Whoop-de-doo. I should be like feeling that there's a little bit more, and I will explain how I would have done that here in just a bit. My final bit of praise before I go into how I would have changed things is that Cinder and Neo's explosive entrances into the season were fun to watch and a real highlight. Yes, Neo might not be quite as explosive because she was spying in on the Schnee family and collecting some stuff, but it was just so her. And then the way that Cinder arrived looking so pompous and just ready for action, it was a really great intro at the end of the season. And honestly, with a lot of the stuff that we've seen, there's a lot to mull over with what exactly is happening to Cinder. That's really interesting to me. All right, so now that I have laid out all of my praises and grievances, how would I have worked to make this season better? This is a strange thing actually for me to contemplate because I really do see so much in Volume 7 that I liked and praised. And so I honestly think that doing too much tweaking would be a horrible idea. Instead, I would advocate for things to be stretched out and have a few additions made. Volume 7 should have culminated in Jacques Schnee being exposed and his downfall being really that grand finale, resulting in Weiss and Winter being able to move on and begin redeeming their family. And during this time, we should have just gotten more bonding between the main cast and the Ace Operatives, so that way their fight later on in Season 8 then would be way more impactful. Help us to love these new guys and see Ironwood in all of his goodness before Volume 8 then delivers a slow downfall. I would have had Cinder and Neo meet up with Watts towards the end of Season 7, argue with him about what should be done in Atlas, and then in the end, Cinder and Neo strike out on their own, allowing for the audience to recall Salem's earlier threat about what will happen to those who break away. End Season 7. Then I would have Season 8 be Watts wreaking havoc throughout Mantle and Atlas using Jacques' login power. It would be this great, almost spy thriller-like season as Cinder and Neo also build up a group of followers to take down Ironwood and steal the relic. You would then get a season-long sequence of Ironwood slowly unraveling and culminating with his battle against Watts and finally making the decision to leave Mantle to its fate. In the meantime, we would get more character development for the entire cast and for our newbies, and see Oscar and Ironwood slowly part ways, rather than it just coming out of nowhere. I didn't like that. It was cool, but in retrospect, it really wasn't earned. I would have had then the battle against the Ace Operatives do more damage to Team RWBY, but leave the rest as it is. This would be just enough doubt, but also enough hope that the audience is truly left guessing as to what will happen next when Salem arrives with her army. Oh my gosh, RWBY and her friends are looking really banged up, but Penny is a maiden, Oscar has a semblance, they have access to the relic, they might just be able to pull out a win in the end. Now, I freely admit that I do not have access to RWBY's scripts or storyboards. I don't know what time constraints they are under, and I know that Rooster Teeth has been through a rough year. This kind of stuff doesn't just happen suddenly. So this means that they've probably been dealing under a lot of duress, and it could be that the creators wanted to speed up to an action-packed Volume 8 with a massive battle determining Atlas and Mantle's fate, just like they've promised us, and all in the hopes of pleasing the old viewers and gaining new fans, while still keeping the story on track to end properly. This is a lot to consider, and I definitely do not envy the task before them. This could be what's happening behind the scenes, but that is just my speculation. However, in a more perfect world, this is the route that I would have advocated for Volume 7. split up into 2 different seasons, Volume 7 culminating with the fall of the Schnee family, and Volume 8 being the finale that we actually did get in Volume 7. So with all that said, allow me to turn my thoughts to RWBY's future. Remember how I said earlier that this was kind of like watching The Force Awakens for me? I say that because The Force Awakens left so much open that it was not a complete story on its own, and it required that a sequel would add or finish it. Well, yeah, The Last Jedi is a thing, and The Rise of Skywalker is another thing, which makes me feel like The Force Awakens was an overall pointless movie. In order for Volume 7 to now be good and not pointless, Volume 8 has to carefully build up on and wrap up everything that Volume 7 delivered. As rushed as it was, if it can do that, then I am all prepared to strap in for a season of amazing battles, good exposition, character development, and plot twists. But it has to nail the downfall of Ironwood. Whether he's redeemed at the end or not is kind of irrelevant, really, as well as what is happening to both Cinder and Oscar, and we need a proper conclusion with the Ace operatives, and Weiss trying to save her family, a rematch between Team Junior and Neo, and we need to hear from Salem what her true goals are. That is what Volume 8 is going to have to give us if it's going to be a complementary season to Volume 7. If it doesn't, it's going to be, in certain ways, a disappointment. And that's just the fact of the matter. This is one of the reasons why you want each installment within the series to be its own story. Now, looking a little bit further into the future, I have to consider our channel's most popular video thus far, Pyrrha's Return. Since releasing that video, amazing fans have reached out to me and provided me with even more information about how Pyrrha could possibly return within the theory that I crafted. I will dedicate a video particularly to all of those amazing fans later this year when I update my theory. But one thing that really stuck out to me was the use of the aura machine, and that it is still operational, people! And furthermore, Winter explicitly says that Penny now has the former Winter Maiden in her. Which then, if my observations and analysis of Pyrrha's final hour is correct, this means that she resides within Cinder. But we also see that Cinder's grim arm is devouring her, which wonderfully complicates things and makes me wonder what is really going on. Who is fighting for Cinder's body? Does Cinder even know that she potentially has 2 different forces within her, or at least one other one being the grim arm that's trying to control her? There's a lot to be seen right here, and I think it is a wonderful development for Cinder's character and seeing what could potentially happen with her in the future. So I'm actually really excited, and I really want to dive into that theory, but that's going to be something I'm going to tackle later. Suffice it to say, there are still plenty of breadcrumbs for me to follow up on in regards to Pyrrha's potential return, but I anticipate more reveals regarding Cinder in the next season, and so I'm excited. I am actually genuinely excited to see what happens next, and I think that RWBY has set up enough potential things to happen that so long as they do it well, I'm honestly going to be happy with whatever they do with her character. Again, that is a follow-up to my previous theory video about Pyrrha's return that I will be working on later this year. And in fact, we as the Harem, we want to do even more RWBY goodness before Volume 8 premieres. Nathan and I are teaming up with our friend Zaza over at Channel Zap to rewatch all 7 seasons of RWBY and break down how the show has changed and evolved. We'll be working on that all during the month of April, and hopefully we can have our collaborative video up for you come May. We'll see how fast we can do all of that. And really, that is all I have to say on the matter right now. Once again, I thought that Volume 7 had a lot of ups and downs. I really enjoyed its ups. I was really aggravated by its downs. I feel like it was a bit rushed, but I did enjoy what I saw. So, like, it's kind of convoluted. I wish I could say more black and white what I honestly thought, and really it's left up for Volume 8 to deliver and be good, and so I have my fingers crossed that it's going to be good. So I would love to hear your own thoughts looking back on Volume 7, what did you think about it? And I want to know some of your predictions for Volume 8. Me personally, I am just really looking forward to a massive battle. I am really hoping that we get to learn about Salem's own goals from her herself. And I am expecting that we will see more about Cinder and what is happening to her in regards to the Grim Arm. And now that we've had the bombshells about the Maidens going on, I suspect that we are going to have some sort of special thing happening as far as a potential return for Pyrrha. It could happen, it might not. As I've said before in my theory video, I am fine with letting go if that's how the story ultimately goes. But the breadcrumbs are there, so we'll see. I've got a lot that I'm expecting in Volume 8. In the meantime, if you want more writers' analyses or writers' advice for all of you authors out there, please head over to our podcast, Camille's Harem, found on Podbean, iTunes, and Google Play. We have writing exercises over our Pinterest page and writing discussions over at our subreddit. And as always, we scour the internet for terrible fan fictions to do epic readings of for your enjoyment. If you have one that you would like us to read, please send us a link to that terrible fan fiction. And until the next video, y'all, tschüss.